Welcome to the Sheridan Report on the Grizzly True Sports Network. The Sheridan Report is brought to you by BET DSI. Make sure to get a 100% cashback bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000 that you go to thegrilling.truth.com, click on the BET DSI banner at the top of the page. The promo code is TGT. You could also go to betdsi.eu and put in the promo code TGT. I am your host for the Sheridan Report, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in the owner of the Sheridan Report, Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Mike. Good morning. Good afternoon. How are you doing today? I'm doing
right.
Good.
I'm all right.
You're better than all right.
No, I'm all right.
We got a good slate of baseball games tonight. 15 new series, and I'm excited for that. And we got the NBA big game 3 coming up tomorrow. And your NHL is 2-2. That was another win for the Grueling Truth for Mike. The Blues pulled that out.
All right, Bobby. So where you want to start? You want to start with the NBA?
Let's start NBA. Give the update a little bit on the preview. That'd be great. We go to Game 3 tomorrow night, and we're to Golden State, changing venues, and we've got a lot of injury information. I understand that Looney is out now for the series. Is that what you understand, Mike?
Looney is out for the series, and Klay Thompson is questionable. And we don't even know if Durant's going to play.
Right. We don't really know where that's at all. Looney out is big. And Thompson, of course, that's the whammy if that happens. I understand that that was just a sort of like a strain, though, maybe not a total pull. But the fact that he's questionable is good, because if he was out, he's out. That tells me he's going to play. But I don't know. That's very interesting. We came into this series with Iguodala a little bit banged up, and I don't think these Warriors are going to finish this off, Mike. I don't. I think they're right at the edge here. To me, they're at the edge of whether they're going to beat this team anyways. So,
Well, I think this. I don't think, for some reason, I don't think Game 1s and Game 2 were that different. I know Kerr made a couple adjustments at halftime, I think, in Game 2. But the thing that struck me was this. The difference in the game was, I don't think Toronto's shot quality was almost the exact same as it was in Game 1. The difference was the shot making was not.
Right. That's very true. I came across a stat, but I thought this was really interesting. Now I'm paraphrasing the exact numbers here because they're not right in front of me, but the point is the point. And that is that there was 23 shots forced in the last 6 seconds of the shot clock by Golden State. So forced by Golden State. So Toronto took 23 shots in Game 1 in the last 6 seconds of the shot clock and hit 14. Something like that. I know it was a big number, above 50%. And they hit only 5 of those 24 shots, right around the same number, in Game 2. Yeah, in Game 2 they hit
all right,
5.
So you had me confused there. So
yeah,
that was Toronto.
Yeah,
so in the
Toronto.
same situation,
Golden
they weren't
State,
making them.
Golden State forcing defensively the shot in the last 6 seconds of the 24 shot clock. Toronto nailed over 50% of those 23 in the first, which, a few of those are threes, probably half of those. And then they only made,
So what that tells me is this, though. I mean, people always talk about Toronto's defense, but that means Golden State's defense has been pretty good too. Even when you're scoring, if you're making them do that in the last 5 seconds, 6 seconds of the shot clock.
Well, yeah, Mike, that's why you saw a couple things. You saw the total come down, okay, and you saw me get off of this Game 2. Hey, look, the Warriors deserve an opportunity, even though I'm on Toronto this series, to make the adjustments. To do a few different things, for Toronto not to shoot as well as they did, for their for Game 1 to Game 2 is always big adjustments in a series, and so I was really worried about Game 2, and for that token, I thought Toronto played pretty darn well. I think you're right. I think there really isn't a whole lot of difference in the game in terms of Toronto, the way they approached it and the way that they went after it. You know, we're going to come up here to Game 3 now, and we're changing venues, and you've got Golden State with the injuries. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here in Game 3 and Game 4. I've been touting a big Game 4 bet. I'm not going to go over that right now. We got, tomorrow's Game 3, but that's still in line. I think I got Game 4 a handle. Let me see what happens in Game 3. I don't know that I'll play or not play, but I know that line is 5.5 Golden State.
Now, wouldn't you say right now, though, with the injuries and what could possibly happen, we're going to know tomorrow probably what's going to happen and play and who's going to play. And if all of a sudden you're missing Klay Thompson for sure and Kevin Durant for sure, this line's going to drop big time. So is it worth taking a risk and just taking the Raptors and 5.5 points right now?
Well, I think that could be a possibility.
Because I don't think it's bad to take the 5.5 in the Raptors even if they're at full strength.
Well, true. Game 3, I'm not sure yet exactly what I want to do with Game 3 myself. But I just know that the 5.5, the value is not there. I know that the value would be there at 8 or 7.5 for a big play on Toronto.
Yeah, but what happens if Looney and Thompson by tomorrow morning they're saying they're not going to play? Isn't that line going to drop to 2 or 3?
I think if Thompson is out, I think they're expecting him to be playing. So if he's out, I think that.
I meant Thompson and Durant, anyways. I think I said Looney, didn't I?
Yeah, Looney, he's out, and then Thompson and Durant, the line. I think people are expecting a no play on Durant and a play on Thompson. I think that's where the line is. So if Thompson were to not play, I think it would come down. Yes.
All right, Bobby.
4.5.
Do we want to go to baseball or hockey?
Let's get your hockey in, Mike. If you're ready for it,
yeah. And I can tell you this, and it's why I like the Blues. They're tough. So are the Bruins. I think the Bruins are a little bit better team. I've said that all along. I still think the Blues are going to figure out a way to win this. The Blues grabbed the initiative early yesterday with a sweet wraparound goal by Ryan O'Reilly, who was just 43 seconds into the first period. They took a 2-1 lead, and they had a power play, or not a power play, but halfway through the second period, they just barely missed scoring like 5 or 6 times. And then it gets turned around, and on a shorthanded goal, Boston ties the game at 2. And what I'm thinking there is, well, they missed their opportunity to go up 3-1. Game's tied now. They're in trouble. Wasn't the case because this team is always, they bowed their back up, they come back. And I think like there was a penalty on a high sticking penalty, which I think really changed the game in the third period. And it was right after Tuukka Rask had thwarted a Blues power play. And just as it seemed like Boston was revving up to take this over, they were hit with a high sticking penalty, or the Blues were. And Boston only managed like 2 shots on the ensuing power play. And the Blues seemed to just take the momentum off of that power play kill and just really dominated the rest of the action from there. They outshot the Bruins 11-6 the rest of the way and held Boston to just 1 shot on goal in the last few minutes. And then you finally get another breathtaking goal, 3-2. You add an empty netter, it's 4-2. So that's the game. And they're going to go on the road. And I got to think about this a little bit more, but I'm leaning towards Game 5. The Blues actually winning in Boston because I think the Blues have been a tough team that have played better on the road. And when I look at this, I think there's a decent shot here, and especially if I see a number that's like 130, 140, 145, I think I'm going to jump all over the Blues again. And I'm almost to the point where I would bet the Blues the next 3 games anyways and figure I'm going to win 2 of them.
Well, you're going to be jumping on them then because I'm seeing 140. I'm seeing plus 140, minus 160. This is for Game 5. And then how about this series price? We talked about it the other day.
It's down to like 135 on Bet DSI, I think.
Right. And I said, hey, if this Boston was minus 250, 255.
Yeah. And I said jump
and
on
I said
it.
It's going to. Right. and it's now almost cut in half. The
Yeah,
Blues
and I've
are
got
actually lower.
the money line for tomorrow night, or for Thursday night, is plus 135 for St. Louis Blues.
Right. And then the series price is the same, correct?
Yeah, last time I checked, it was. So,
yeah,
jump on the Blues.
So, what are the thoughts there? Would you take the plus 135 on the, if you had $100 right now, and somebody said, Mike, I'll give this to you. You can only bet the series plus 135, or you could bet Game 5 plus 135. Which one would you bet your $100 on?
I'll bet either one, because I think they're going to win. And if I had to bet $100 like that, I would bet it on Game 5, because to get the 7-game series win, I have to win 2 games. So there you go. That's using your head right there, Bobby.
Well, that's why I asked you, Mike.
Oh, you were trying to trick me, weren't you?
Not trick you, but I just wanted to see where you're at, see where your thought process was.
Yeah, you're trying to trick me. All right, let's go to baseball, Bobby. What do you got?
All right, Mike. Well, let's go right to the 3-teamer. And this thing pays about 3.5 to 1. And we're going to start it off with a good left-handed pitcher for the Braves named Max Fried, F-R-I-E-D. Good, nice, solid, medium favorite at Pittsburgh. Got the left-hander going against the Pirates, which is the matchup we want. We have a young star-type pitcher against a veteran 5th, 6th man. Pittsburgh Pirates, very talented team, Mike. Very good team. Added some good offensive pieces. Left-handed bats Colin Moran and Brian Reynolds to go with their solid core of players. However, I think they're going to struggle a little bit in this game against Atlanta. Atlanta's starting a road trip, and I like that. And so Max Fried on the road will start off minus 160. Nice, medium, solid favorite in our 3-teamer mix and match. And then we head over to the Reds. They have their ace going, Luis Castillo. This is a big game for Cincinnati. They start out the series with the Cardinals, and you got Luis Castillo minus 117, small road favorite, going against a young pitcher, Genesis Cabrera. And I think you're safe here with the Reds. I think the Cardinals' play is a little risky based on Cabrera facing that Reds offense. You've always got the backing of a pretty good offense, but the Cardinals are going against Castillo, who's got the equalizer in this matchup. He's got that changeup. So I'm going to go with the Reds. Pretty solid bullpen behind him. And then to finish off this 3-team mix and match, we're going to go down to the Red Sox. They're going to be in Kansas City facing a knuckleballer, Glenn Sparkman. The Red Sox are a high favorite, minus 175. So if we can get to that game, we'll have a nice value. We've been getting 2 out of 3 of these. So I think tonight, let's get all 3. And we'll move over, Mike, to our straight plays, okay?
Yep.
And our straight plays, we'll go with the Giants, plus 130. You got Bumgarner against Noah Syndergaard. And the thought process here is the Giants have played well at New York in the past. And their bats woke up a little bit in the last series, particularly shortstop Brandon Crawford. He's swinging the bat now. He's getting some home runs, to go along with the guys that they need to do that. And I think they're going to play a big series here. They've got one last push, not towards the playoffs, not towards anything like that. But they're going to make one last good push here before it's all out fire sale. And that's going to happen around the All-Star break, Mike. So I think you're going to get a good slate of games here. Then it's going to be Young City. They're already moving that way. Young player, call up, see what they've got. And this last push is going to be June. So Bumgarner over Syndergaard. Syndergaard has struggled, has not been as quality and as effective as I thought he would be at this point in the season. So we're going to take the Giants at the number plus 130. And, Mike, I'll go over one more for you. I've got 2 more, but I'll go over one more because this is my top play of the day. This is a game that if you push the best bet button on my website, this is the one that's going to pop up. And it's the Baltimore Orioles, who are sending Dylan Bundy to the mound against Drew Smyly. And we have a really good matchup here for Baltimore. Dylan Bundy, career .75 ERA against Texas. 4 starts, 5 starts. One or the other, I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's a .75 ERA, 2-1 lifetime record. So you have a matchup in your favor on the starting pitching. All right, you got to win the first part of this game here. Baltimore's offense has sparked to where they're now capable of scoring 5, 6, 7 runs in a ball game. They're hitting the ball with some power. Nunez and their all-star Mancini, a few other guys around them that are swinging the bats well. And then finally, Texas, they lost Gallo, their power hitter, Joey Gallo. He's on the disabled list, was placed on there. I think they're going to be a little less, ammunition tonight to go against Baltimore. I expect Baltimore to not only score 6 to 8 runs, but win the pitching matchup here, my starting pitching matchup. So this is my top play. And this is plus 115 on the road. And how many times have you seen Baltimore plus only $1.15, $1.10, on the road? They're very, very small.
You almost never see that when they're at home either, Bubby.
Well, yeah. So what's that tell you, Mike? I think it tells you we're on the right side, and you just gotta pull the trigger. And I'm pulling it. So we got some underdogs that I think are going to fire tonight in these new series. We have 3 good favorites, not crazy minus 260s, but still valued favorites. The goal is let's get to Boston. I think Boston will finish off that 3-teamer. And then tonight, let's hit those 2 top plays. And I've got one sneaky one that I'm going to leave just for my subscribers, and that's in the Phillies and the Padres game tonight. Got to have a nice thought process there. So anyhow, Mike, there's your baseball. Let's hope for a good day.
All right, Bobby. So, since we're getting to where this is just going to be baseball sometimes, or at some point here, we're going to start doing something tomorrow. You want to start off with the catchers tomorrow, Bobby?
Mike, I'm ready to start baseball stuff with you anytime, so catchers is fine.
So
anything
what we're going to do for the next few weeks is you'll get a top 5 catchers, first baseman, second baseman. Just me and Bobby will air our opinions. Hopefully we'll argue about it because I like to argue. You'll also get top 5 teams and stuff because I grew up, baseball was my sport up until I realized that it was a lot more boring than playing football or basketball. No offense, Bobby.
Come on, Mike.
Well, it just used to be funner. I don't know. I think they killed it with the oversaturation because I remember, hell, you probably collected baseball cards, didn't you?
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember there were some times where I hated to go to school anyways, but I would act like I was sick, get to stay home, and then watch the 1 o'clock movie during the day and sit there and sort my baseball cards out by team.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't that was so fun to do stuff like that. And then they came up with those card holders, and then they came up with an easy way to put them, those boxes that had separators, and
yeah.
I
never had a box with separator. What I did is I had shoe boxes or big cardboard boxes that I would actually cut pieces of cardboard with the team's name on them, stick them in, and put the cards in. But I'll tell you, I used to sit there and I used to memorize the back of everybody's baseball cards. I mean, I'm like one of the few people that can tell you all about Biff Pokeroba.
Well, Mike, this is exactly why. Okay, what you're saying right there, a young kid growing up in Indiana.
Not like that anymore.
In Southern California. Well, this is why, just follow me on this. Numbers in baseball are huge. The back of that baseball card. And who hit what, and who was the best RBIs and the most this and lifetime this and who had the best stat in this. Stats they dwarf the other sports in terms of numbers.
Yeah, but how about this, Bobby?
Remember what they mean. Well, hold on now.
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on. All right, and what those stats mean, and lifetime, and where you're ranked. We're talking about lists. Nothing. I mean, baseball is huge in this area. Agreed?
I agree.
This is why.
And
this is why the steroids were a big deal when this all came about.
Yeah, but Bobby, when you go back to Babe Ruth time and stuff,
messes with these numbers, Mike.
Yeah, but it's already messed with the numbers, Bobby. Before 1947, white players weren't even playing against the best players, so you've got that also. I mean, about the only time where you had any fair stats would have probably been in the 60s, ended about the mid-70s. And really, you had at that time, people using uppers, downers, whatever, and there's always been something to screw this up. But do you remember the best comparison?
Not to the extent steroids have, though, Mike. Well, now the numbers not to the extent that steroids has. The numbers have been skewed.
But wait, Bobby. I mean, you had guys like Satchel Paige, who may have been one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history, who never got to pitch in Major League Baseball until he was old.
Okay, but that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother.
But it's the same thing. It still screws the stats up because you don't have the best players.
But for a different reason.
Yeah, but does it matter what the reason is?
Well, when you talk about numbers, pure numbers of the players who would have played anyways, forget the reasons why some of those guys weren't able to and what happened there. But if you just talk about the guys that are in the league, their numbers, doing it, not doing it, they're all doing it now. So it's even playing field. But the numbers are not even. Anything that's generated now by these guys now, it's just, you can't even compare. It's different. It's another game. It's a whole other game. And look, the strikeout numbers, the miles per hour, the home run numbers, the RBI numbers, just every single stat there is. And maybe it's good that we come up with our new stats now. WAR. There's posted today. Get this. They ranked two things according to WAR. They put out a top team ever by position drafted from high school, and then a top team ever by position drafted from college, because we got the draft that's going on right now. And they measured it by WAR. So the top three outfielders by WAR, by career WAR, wins above replacement. That's what that means. To the average major leaguer, your value in wins above what your replacement player would be. And this is a stat that we never even knew of until a few years ago. And that's how they came up with the top teams. And the best player today, what do you think that is, Mike? What do you think the best player is right now playing today in WAR in baseball?
I don't even know what the hell WAR is, Bobby. Except
that's what we just talked about, wins above replacement.
I know. What the hell does that mean? What's win above replacement mean?
Your stats, your metrics, both offensively and defensively, okay, on when you're in the game versus you're just an average major leaguer that would replace you, and how that would reflect in your wins for your team. They've got it that dialed in on this stat. And who do you think the best player is in the league right now? And he's leading in every category.
Well, be the dude from the Dodgers.
That's right, Bellinger.
Yeah,
Mike,
Bellinger.
He's leading. He's the best offensive WAR player in the game right now, in every category. And best defensive player. His wins above replacement as a defensive outfielder / first baseman are the best in the league. So he's the best player by far right now in WAR, first half of the 2019
Yeah,
season.
but see, this is the thing. WAR doesn't matter when it comes down to it. Because if I told you could have any baseball player in the world on your team to start your team with, would he be the guy you take?
Maybe now, yeah.
Really?
Maybe right now today.
But he's never done this before. So chances are, in baseball, if you're a lifetime 290 hitter, if you're hitting 500 right now or 400 right now, you're probably going to hit 200 at some point for a couple months.
Yeah, he's still a pretty young player, though, Mike. He's still only in maybe his third full season. I think what you're seeing is.
But his girlfriend is extremely hot, so that should count into that WAR stat too.
She is. I didn't know that.
Yeah, remember we had the out of left field show
right.
where because I wouldn't have known it either, but I just punched it in and I saw it because I wasn't even going to use him as the picture on the cover of the thing until his girlfriend was standing there, and I thought, oh man, there'll be perverts like Steve Risley and Bobby Sheridan who just go click on that because of that.
Don't put me in that category.
Okay,
you want to argue about something?
I know, Bobby. I know Bobby don't like girls. I'm sorry, Bobby.
Well, don't put me in that category.
No, wait a second, Bobby. I'm putting myself in that category because I'm the one who put the freaking picture there.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
And there is a reason for that. And there is also a reason why you looked at that picture longer than you would have a picture of just Clay Bellinger.
Well,
or
that's
Cody
true,
Bellinger, whatever. So see, so you are. So you're.
Well, now that I'm on Twitter, I see that because a lot of these sites will entice you to click just by putting a good-looking lady to tell you what they want you to know.
Yeah,
and
so
it works.
So occasionally we do that. So see, you gave me a bunch of crap, and I was just right to begin with. So, and it wasn't a shot at Risley either, because I know he's sitting there with, milk coming out of his nose. What the hell are you talking about me for? But no, it was a compliment, because if you didn't like that stuff, then that would make you the opposite of that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But, and I think I think that is why it makes it so interesting to have this topic of the top 5 or the top 10 to play a position, just to look at that. And when you think about it, the two sports I think that historically the numbers and the records are the most important have both been bastardized. That would be baseball and boxing. And you're not even a huge boxing fan, but you brought that up a couple weeks ago when they tried to show Deontay Wilder as having 9 title defenses, and where that puts him as opposed to Muhammad Ali and freaking Joe Louis.
Yeah. I saw a list with that guy's name on with those two, and I thought, well,
yeah, it's the same thing. They basically destroyed it, because it used to be in boxing up until the 50s or 60s, you had 8 divisions, you had 8 world champions, and that was it. Now we have 17 divisions, 4 world champions in each one, 128 world champions. In baseball, now you've got who's on the Jews, who's not on the Jews, but since they're all on the Jews, all the records are screwed up. That's why you got either strikeouts or home runs.
Well, yeah. And,
And nobody takes the juice to learn how to bunt.
Obviously not.
So...
Hey, we had the draft yesterday, Mike. I want to mention this. The number 2 pick was Bobby Witt Jr. by the Kansas City Royals.
Oh, is that Mike Witt's son?
And his dad, that's Bobby Witt's son. Mike Witt. Mike Witt's the more famous Witt, but that's Bobby Witt's son. And Bobby Witt was the number 3 pick when he came out, senior.
Yeah.
So their combined total was a 5. And that breaks, I think, the Greavy's record. Tom and Ben Grievey, who their combined was a 9.
Yeah, but nobody remembers Tom or Ben Grievey, so the Wits win.
No, but they both made it, and you have 9 fathers and sons that have been drafted, and they became the highest, the best number 1 aggregate score, 5.
So
and
what
Bobby
is the greatest father-son combination ever play in the MLB? It would have to be the Griffeys, correct?
Well, yeah, it'd have to be the Griffeys for sure.
Because I can't think of anybody else where both were all-stars, was there?
Well, the Boones, Ray Boone and both of his sons, Bob Boone, sons, Aaron and Brett Boone, both made the All-Star game, didn't they? I think they both at one time were All-Stars.
Yeah, but I don't think they're the Griffeys.
Well,
I remember watching King Griffey Jr. bat like .337 and lose the batting title to Bill Madlock on the last day. I also remember this. I think they both were MVPs at a Major League Baseball All-Star game, weren't they?
Well, Griffey in '76 at Dodger Stadium, or no, excuse me.
No, that was
Griffey
in 1980. Yeah.
In '80 at Dodger Stadium, and then Junior, yes, I can't remember which one, but he was American League All-Star MVP.
Yeah, the only difference there is King Griffey Jr. never even made it to a World Series.
No.
So the question is this: would you have rather had King Griffey Sr.'s career or King Griffey Jr.'s career?
Well, Senior got to play on what's regarded as one of the top 2 or 3 teams ever. Junior got to have a lot more, individual accomplishments. I think I'd rather have Senior's career.
Yeah, I'd rather have Senior's career. I'd rather have the rings. And he still was a great baseball player. I mean, he's not as great as what his son was, but he's not as far off as people think. King Griffey Jr. or King Griffey Sr. could swing the bat.
Yeah, yep.
And a lot of his problem is he was on that 76 Reds team, and he was surrounded by Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
So it's easy to lose track of him.
Well, easy to lose track. And, when you have an offense that goes that deep, you know what that does pressure-wise? If you're rooting for a team, let's just say you got a bet on, or you don't. It doesn't matter, betting isn't a betting thing, but you're rooting for your team. And you're kind of weak in the 6, 7, 8 spots. Maybe it's a National League team, and you got the pitcher. Yeah. Oh, that inning rolls around. There might be 1 or 2 innings where you're not feeling that confident about your chances of scoring. Then all of a sudden you have an inning, or okay, here's our guy. Well, how about when every inning is here's our guy? That's tough for a pitcher, number one. And then for those guys, they don't have to do it. They know, hey, look, I can just take my walk here. And he just not, stay real focused and disciplined with my at bat. Take my walk here, move on. Let the next guy drive me in. Let the next guy. And it's, it takes a lot of pressure off trying to drive the ball. And you can just, play your game. And those kind of offenses have so much an advantage. And that's why managers like to get their lineup stretched, get them longer, make them longer, get more balance, so that you've got a bigger chance to score. And that's how it works, So, yeah, those kind of that team, the Reds, easy to see now. I mean, they've got a 6, 7, 8 of, Tony, Pérez, and whatever it was in those days. Pérez might hit 5 or 6, and then you've got a senior, and then you've got who knows, maybe help me out here, Mike. Just whoever hit down in the
I don't know, because to tell you the truth, Bobby, I can barely hear you right now. You sound kind of muffled. You have the last few seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go. You had the phone upside down again, didn't you?
No, I had the way I held it, the phone was different, I think. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, because in 10 seconds, I'm like, man, I hate to tell him. I can't hear what he's saying. But, all right, now try it again, and I'll see if I can help you.
Well, what I was talking about, I'm sorry for that. I put my hand over the speaker, I think. What I was talking about was just lineups when they're long. Long meaning just quality depth. The 6, 7, 8 is almost as likely to score as the 3, 4, 5. And what that does to a player playing in a lineup like that is it takes the pressure off him.
Yeah.
He can.
And the other thing is this: it takes the pressure off of every batter and just magnifies all the pressure on the pitcher. That's
correct. And so Senior had a lineup like that. With that big red machine. They were deep. And what I was talking about when I said help me out here, we're just coming up with some names that used to hit in that 6, 7, 8 spot on that big red machine. Didn't Tony Pérez hit 6th on that team or something? Can you come up with the lineup off the top of your head?
Of the Cincinnati Reds?
Yeah, of the Reds in that era.
You want 1 through 8? Because the 1 through 8 would change. The 1 through 8, who was playing in what position, almost never changed with Sparky. But, I mean, you would have leadoff. I remember Griffey leading off, Rose would lead off, Morgan would lead off. Johnny Bench, if you watch the 76 series, Johnny Bench batted 7th in that series.
Wow.
75, a lot of times he batted 5th. The thing was, that lineup was so interchangeable. If one of them wasn't playing great, they just drop him down in the lineup until they started hitting better. Then they'd move him back up and drop whoever wasn't hitting back. I mean, so
right.
I think that the only time you saw hardly anybody sit would have been in a doubleheader, or maybe an occasional Sunday game. Johnny Bench would sit and Bill Plummer would play. And, I mean, just because he's the catcher and you had to rest. But, yeah, so that lineup would change according to who was hitting. But when you're looking at a top 3 normally of Rose, Morgan, and Griffey, I mean, those guys were all well over 300 hitters in 1975.
Yes, yeah.
And
George Foster.
Well, you got George Foster, who hit 52 home runs, when I don't think anybody had hit 50 home runs in like a decade or more at that point.
Right, he popped up and did it, right.
Yeah, and he hit 77 in, 1977?
Yeah. 77, what are you talking about?
Yeah, 77, he hit 52 home runs.
Yeah, 52, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think if I had to give you a normal order in like 1975, the 75 order, I think, was normally. Like I said, I know he would switch them around. I think 75, the order was more set than it was in 76, because the thing people forget, in 76, Johnny Bench won the World Series MVP and batted like 557 with 3 or 4 home runs in 4 games. He hit 2 in game 4. But 1976 was Johnny Bench's worst season ever. I mean, he batted 236 that year. But before that year, what you normally got was you got Rose, Morgan, Bench, and then you would get Pérez at 4, Foster at 5. Griffey, I think, usually batted 7, and then Geronimo. Really, the top 5 in 75 is the only thing that really stayed solid, because you had Concepcion, Geronimo, Griffey. There was no easy outs in that outfield or in that lineup at all. And hell, if you go to number 9 and Don Gullett's pitching, Don Gullett was a hell of a hitter, and Don Gullett hit a home run, I think, in the 1970 NLCS, and he may have been 75 also. And the thing about Don Gullett is he's one of the greatest athletes in the history of the state of Kentucky. He was an All-American football quarterback who threw like 38 touchdown passes his senior season. As a basketball player, he averaged like 35 points a game, still holds the school record at 72. And he threw like 5 or 6 no-hitters his senior year, and I don't think he gave up an earned run as a pitcher. I think he was at Maysville High School, but I don't quote me on that one. But yeah, so
wow. And so he came to the big leagues out of high school.
Huh?
Yeah, he was drafted. He was a high schooler. He came to the pro baseball out of high school, right?
Yeah, if you remember, he was the first really huge free agent that was signed after that 76 season, and then he tore up his shoulder.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
I mean, because he was the best right-handed pitcher in baseball in 1975. I mean, he was like 14-2, and that, you got to remember, those were the years where Sparky liked to pull guys after 5 innings. Sparky would have fit in today, I think, a hell of a lot better than he did back then. But I think it's also what made him dangerous back then, because you had a bullpen with guys like Clay Kirby, Pedro Borbon, Raleigh Eastwick, Pat Zachary. All 4 of those guys would have been closers on most teams. And I reposted my article in the 1990 Nasty Boys today.
I
with
saw
Charlton
that. I
and
haven't read it. I haven't read it.
And the thing about it is this. I mean, the bullpen they had in 75 and 76 was just as deep. It's just you didn't have as many characters, except for Borbon. But, I mean, when you got Borbon, Clay Carroll, Eastwick, Zachary, that's a pretty damn good pitching staff on the back end with your relievers. And then you had a starting staff. And see, people underrate how good the starting pitching was on that team. Gary Nolan was a stud. And Gary Nolan was a guy who came in, if you remember, I think Nolan was like 19 and Bench was 19. They might have both even been 18 in like 1969, and basically started together. And you had Gary Nolan. I think, was it Nolan or Norman or both of them that ended up being like dealers in Vegas?
I don't know that, Mike. That's new to me. I didn't.
Yeah,
I
it
haven't
might
heard
have even
that.
been both of them. But you had Gary Nolan, of course, Fred Norman, Jack Billingham, who were both solid pitchers. But then you had a number 1 in Don Gullett. And the thing people really miss is what could have been with Wayne Simpson. If you're a Cincinnati fan, all Bengals fans talk about Greg Cook and what could have been. But Wayne Simpson was a big dude who threw the ball similar to J.R. Richard. And I think 1970, he was like 12-1 at the All-Star break, or 12-0, and actually started, or he pitched in the Major League Baseball All-Star game. And after the All-Star game, he kind of went downhill quickly, found out he had an arm problem, and never was the same. I think he ended that year like 14-3, but he didn't get to pitch in the World Series. And I think if you put him in that World Series against the Orioles, that could have been enough to change who won the World Series.
Yeah.
And really, if that referee or umpire doesn't screw up that call in Game 1, that might have changed it also.
Yeah.
That was did the ball hit his foot and shit like that, and Sparky went nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the World Series that Earl Weaver he got.
And still, the biggest problem that the Reds had, 1976, the thing that ended the Big Red Machine was Dan Dreesen was the DH, and he hit the ball great. And that made them think that Tony Pérez was expendable. And when you took Tony Pérez off that team, that's why that team fell apart. Because if you look at it, Pete Rose left after 1978. They went to the playoffs in 1979. I mean, the glue to that team was Tony Pérez. He was the leader of that team. And I got to go see the Reds in 87 at Plant City, Florida. They had spring training. And Tony Pérez, I can't remember if that was his last year playing was 86, but he became a coach in 87 under Rose. And just the way everybody kind of gravitated it, he was a great leader. And I think the only word he could say in English that was plainly understandable was the F word. Everything else kind of jumbled, then he'd throw out the F, and that was always clear. And it wasn't a mean one. It was usually telling a damn joke. But he was a great guy. And then you got other underrated guys on that Reds team like Merv Retman. Merv Retman was a damn good pinch hitter who started a lot of his career before he got to Cincinnati. Bob Halsam, who was the GM, he's the one that engineered the trades for Concepcion and Morgan and all these guys. Foster. They basically hosed the Houston Astros out of Joe Morgan and Cesar Geronimo in 1972, I think it was. I think they gave up, who did they give up? Wayne Garrett or something, that pitcher?
I'm not
or Wayne
that
Merritt,
trade, but
I don't remember. But, yeah, that's all I got, though. And I want to remind everybody
all right, Mike,
to go to betdsi.eu and put in the promo code TGT for a 100% cashback bonus up your first deposit of $1,000. Also, check out the handicapping guide if you like to play the horses. Phil does a great job there, and that'll be next week at some point. We got to figure out a time. We'll have a Belmont show, correct?
No, this week, Mike.
Is it this
Friday?
week? Okay. Let's do the show Friday night at like 8 o'clock Eastern.
Perfect. Yeah, I talked to Phil, and he said that Vince is ready to go. So that's really good timing.
And Vince is Vince DeGregory, who is probably the greatest agent in horse racing history for the jockeys, not the horses, because I don't think the horses get representation. Also, you can check out the Sheridan Report at Sheridan Report on Twitter, to SheridanReport.com on the internet. Bobby, you can get from Bobby his $5 top play of the day by going to SheridanReport.com. You can also get a daily report at $10 a day, or the daily report for the entire month for $50. Missing anything there, Bobby, or are we good to go?
No, you'll have that in your inbox the night before. It's always there, anytime from 10.
Yeah, so if our show starts at 2 or 3 o'clock and there's games at 1, if you bought the report, you've got it. So there is a reason, even if you listen to the show every day here at thegruelingtruth.com, to go ahead and buy the Sheridan Report.
No doubt.
All right, guys.
I hold some stuff back, too.
We're gonna wrap it up, and me and Bobby will be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. And tonight, me and Jeremiah Price are with Inside Boxing Daily. Make sure you check us out. If you follow the Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth, you'll know when we go live with any show. You could also go on Spreaker. You could ask questions of me and Jeremiah. You could ask questions of Bobby before the Sheridan Report tomorrow. Any show we do, tweet a question. We'll try to get it answered for you. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind everybody you hear all of our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.